A stunning wave of accusations has rocked the FBI, with 3 of the agency's most accomplished leaders claiming they were targeted in a sweeping purge driven by politics, not performance. If you think this is just another federal workplace dispute, think again. Some are calling it a calculated campaign of revenge that's shaking the foundations of American law enforcement. But here's where the story gets truly explosive. The fired agents assert that top officials at the FBI and the Department of Justice fumbled their responsibilities, putting loyalty to President Trump above national security and federal law. According to a newly filed lawsuit, these decorated agents didn't just lose their jobs. They lost out on hard-earned retirement benefits after decades of service, all because they refused to demonstrate fealty to the administration. Let's break down what's making headlines. FBI Director Kash Patel promised lawmakers he'd shield the Bureau's employees from political interference. Yet the lawsuit claims that once inside FBI headquarters, Patel instead followed orders from the Trump White House to remove perceived disloyal officers, sidelining the legal protections owed to federal workers. That, the lawsuit argues, compromised the nation's safety by cutting loose the very leaders who specialized in combating terrorism and violent crime. Who were these dismissed agents? The plaintiffs, Brian Driscoll, Stephen Jensen, and Spencer Evans, brought decades of experience and accolades to their roles. Driscoll, recognized for bravery, even led the Bureau as acting director for a short period. Jensen oversaw high-stakes security operations in the nation's capital, while Evans managed the probe into a headline-grabbing Tesla Cybertruck explosion outside a Trump-branded Las Vegas hotel earlier this year. These aren't your average FBI employees. They were at the pinnacle of federal service. According to their attorney, Abby Lowell, these firings were less about enforcing rules and more about settling scores. They sacrificed those who dedicated their lives to protecting America just to create an example of retaliation, Lowell told NPR. And this is the part most people miss. All 3 agents argue their dismissals trampled their constitutional rights, including free speech and due process under the Fifth Amendment. Remarkably, this is not the first legal challenge the FBI has faced from within its own ranks this year. All 3 agents had devoted more than 20 years to the Bureau, but being under 50 were ineligible for early retirement, making the timing of their removal especially punitive. When asked to comment, the FBI gave no response about the pending litigation. Why stay silent on such a sensitive issue? What might they be avoiding? Digging deeper, Driscoll's troubles reportedly began before President Trump was even sworn back into office. The lawsuit describes a phone interview led by a controversial, inexperienced transition team member, probing Driscoll's loyalty to Trump and quizzing him about his voting history and his take on diversity initiatives. Driscoll refused to answer, citing professional ethics. And yet, confusion followed. A clerical error briefly made Driscoll acting FBI director, a mistake the White House refused to correct. Shortly after, Justice Department figure Emily Bove allegedly pressured Driscoll to enact mass workforce changes at the FBI, mirroring the politically motivated sackings underway at the DOJ, including the attorneys investigating Trump. The height of the controversy came when Driscoll refused to hand over a list of agents who worked on the historic January 6th Capitol riot investigation, refusing, he said, to put those agents at risk. His stance earned him grassroots support from fellow FBI staff, who championed him as a hero in internal memes. Yet, internal backlash was fierce, with higher-ups infuriated by his resistance. Driscoll eventually shared a partial list using ID numbers, not names, in an attempt to shield agents from possible reprisal. Meanwhile, the lawsuit reveals that Stephen Jensen, after being abruptly promoted, then dismissed, had growing concerns about the new FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino, a conservative firebrand formerly known more for his podcast than investigative experience. Rather than strategic analysis or fieldwork, Bongino allegedly prioritized managing his social media following and public image, sometimes more than the investigations themselves. Here's a point that will definitely spark debate. Is social media obsession undermining the integrity of our most elite law enforcement agencies? Jensen also pleaded with Director Patel to protect the identity of an agent entangled in sensitive investigations, whose wife was terminally ill, from being publicly outed and subjected to online abuse. Instead of compassion, both Jensen and the agent with the ailing spouse were fired shortly afterwards, their dismissals delivered in a terse letter signed by Patel. A side note sure to fuel controversy, the agent was given an oversized, ostentatious challenge coin from Patel just before his dismissal, a gesture the lawsuit paints as more about self-promotion than appreciation. So here's the real question for readers. Do you think these terminations were justified, or do they mark a dangerous shift toward politically driven policing at the highest levels? Were these leaders unfairly punished for defending their oath, or did they cross a line by refusing presidential direction? Let's see some bold opinions in the comments. Do you believe loyalty to the law should ever come second to allegiance to elected officials?